Hey everybody, how's it going? Here I am with an advertiser-friendly kitty. But don't be mistaken, just because she's advertiser-friendly doesn't mean that she's friendly. Our relationship has been a little bit strained since I woke up at 5:55 in the morning, realizing that I was this close to having my eye gouged out by a kitty that tried to run away from the bed while I was sleeping as quickly as possible. She knows she did something wrong. She knows. See that? She's just looking straight forward. Can't even make eye contact with me. She knows. But anyway, to the topic of this video, I was relating to stuff like this in a video I did on Square a while back. I told a story on how I dealt with Square. The things you're not expecting to deal with as a small business owner that you have to, and the different ways that you can deal with them. And today I wanted to discuss something else that comes up very often. I think that I want to start sharing more of these experiences that I've had that I think most people are not going to get if they've never owned a business. So when I moved into this store at 186 First Avenue, that was in the beginning of 2012. And this was no more me sharing a studio space, no more me meeting people in Herald Square Park because I don't have a place to work out of. This was supposed to be the start of a legitimate, but actually legitimate business. And I wanted to do things properly from the get-go. And one of the things that I did when I started hiring employees was I got myself workman's comp insurance and all the other stuff that I needed. And when I got that policy, I got it through a company called The Hartford. Now, being an insurance company, they also showed me other products that they offered. And one of them, which sounded somewhat interesting, was something called business loss of income insurance. The way business loss of income insurance was explained to me was if you have a business and something occurs that outside of your control that stops you from being able to make money, they will pay you out the amount of money that you would have made during that time if your business were operational. And since I've had times in the past where things occurred that were somewhat outside of my control that kept me from being able to use my business, I figured that would be a nice thing to have. I'm a real business now. Let me start treating my business like a real business. Let me hire a proper architectural firm rather than just running willy-nilly with Stephen Paul to the contractor. So many things so many failures in business for me over the past 11 years have started with me saying, let me pay to do things properly this time rather than the more practical way of getting them done. But so I had them speak to me about business loss of income insurance, and I thought, all right, this is cool. Now, there was I forget if it was Hurricane Irene or Sandy. It was the one that happened around September or October of 2012, and I wasn't able to open the store for a while. The store had no problems with liquid ingress, but there was no electricity. One of the Con Edison power plants that was located less than a quarter mile away from the store, around 14th Street area, had exploded like my bike battery. It was gone. And one of the issues there was that I had no electricity. Neither did most of the East Village. We had no electricity. Now, one of the problems with having no electricity if you're in an electronics business, you can't do anything. You can't test that things work. You can't see if they turn on. You can't turn on soldering stations, lighting, hot air stations, your computer. Most of the things that you need to run this type of business, you can't use if the power plant has exploded and is no longer providing power to the city. So I gave the staff off for about 4 days, and at the end of it, I decided, well, it's a good thing I'm a real business that invested in real insurance for when things go bad. And I called the insurance company and went to file a claim, and apparently I could file a claim, and I was like, well, why not? They said, well, that's water. Your policy doesn't cover flood. And I said, well, no. My store had zero water ingress. No water damage, Apple. No water damage. Don't you charge me $2,000 to bend the pin in the effing cable because you see all red sticker. No, none of that shit. And, I was polite about it more than that. They said, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. You had no electricity. Your store had no water, but you had no electricity. Now, why did you have no electricity, Lewis? You had no electricity because the power plant exploded. And why did the power plant explode? Water. Flooding. The power plant flooded. As a result, I had no electricity. As a result of me having no electricity because of the flood, the power plant, that meant that my business loss of income was caused by a flood, even if it wasn't my flood. I issue was no electricity, but my no electricity was caused by a flood of another facility. Therefore, they're not going to pay out the claim.
But we're still looking at a total of around $1,200.
Wow. And I'm just going to try to push that back into the slot. As you can see, we've got an apple and we have a light.
And they get to point to that bullshit in this ridiculously long contract that says that. And this is one of the reasons that I think a lot of people dislike insurance, and why I laugh when people say, well, don't worry about it, Lewis, insurance will cover that, or do you have insurance in case you mess up a customer's product, or do you have insurance in case this, that? No, I don't. Because you know what insurance often does? Insurance points to page 20 or 40 or 90 of the contract to some legalese bullshit that no normal human being will understand, and says that's why we're not covering your claim. Well, you already have your money. Because what insurance is selling you is essentially they're selling you access to the money you've paid them plus potential future payments. The service that they're providing, you're paying for a service before they have the chance to provide it, and them providing you that service may cost the insurance company more than they expect to make from you over the course of your natural life. So if a business loss of income insurance claim, let's say, was something way higher than mine, like $350,000, and they look at the amount of premiums that they're collecting, and it looks like they're never going to be able to collect that amount of premiums over the life of that business, it doesn't even matter if you're a happy or angry customer, because you simply being a customer is actually costing them money. So there is a financial incentive to go through every single page of a 200-page confusing contract, which they will write as confusingly as possible, to ensure that you never get paid. Because even if you say, I'm never going to use you again, well, that's a great thing, because you using them is actually costing them money. And the thing that's insane with insurance to me is that the people who are choosing whether or not they're going to pay the claim are the people who have a direct financial incentive to not pay the claim. I have always laughed at this as a concept. I'm not saying this is outside of healthcare stuff entirely. Like, I'm not saying that government is the best when it comes to healthcare, but I'm not saying the fucking insurance market is either. And one of the things that I found incredibly hysterical here is that what people will often say, well, Lewis, if that's damaged, isn't that covered by insurance? Isn't that covered by insurance? Isn't this covered by insurance? I mean, honestly, just getting FedEx or the post office to pay claims on things is hard enough. I mean, if you spend 3 or 6 hours on hold because they damaged something worth $200 or $300 and you're paying an employee, and do you really come out ahead there? It's incredibly aggravating. And at that point, as you can imagine, I immediately dumped the Hartford and stopped using them for just about everything. And I switched over to another insurance company that actually wound up sucking about as much as them. But I didn't have the business loss of income insurance anymore. I just had the bare minimum legally required. And the reason this comes up is because somebody asked me, well, for the new space, did you get all these types of insurance and this type of insurance and that type of insurance? I sent my lease over to an insurance broker, and I told him verbatim, I want you to give me the bare minimum legal necessities so that I service what's in this lease. And they sent me a policy, and it seemed a little high. And I said, "Did you give me what I asked for? Did you add some?" No, we thought you could. No. The bare minimum required for this lease. It's not because I'm skimping. It's not because I'm being cheap. It's because on many occasions, other than this, paid the full dollar amount for an insurance policy, and they decide for some BS reason that they don't want to pay out. And I think this is part of a greater conversation when it comes to professional fees, when it comes to stuff like even just the architect that I wound up hiring that wanted over $7,200 for design, that after getting the deposit gave us essentially less input and less effort than I would have expected from an FIT intern working for free. That since they haven't given us a refund about a week and a half after they said they would, I will be filing suit in small claims court as soon as the holiday's done. But the thing is that many people are actually willing to pay a professional fee. The question is not whether they're willing to pay a professional fee or not. The question is how confident do they feel that they'll actually get the service once they've paid for it. It's not that I'm unwilling to pay someone $3,000 to $7,000 to do design. It's not that. It's not that I'm unwilling to pay $7,000 for that. It's that there's a risk that after I pay it, I'm not going to get it. I'm not unwilling to pay for insurance. I'm happy to pay tens of thousands of dollars a year for real insurance. The question is, how confident do I feel that I'm actually going to get my money's worth if something happens, or that you're going to try to screw me by pointing to page 77 of some contract and going, no, you don't understand. Even though your place wasn't flooded, the issues that you had were related to some other business not being able to provide you services because they flooded. Water damage. Like, these people were the Hartford Insurance Company was worse to me than the Genius Bar is dealing with Apple customers. If you're not used to watching my videos, I can't imagine explaining to you the gravity of that insult of their services. I was actually licensed to sell healthcare in 2008. I got my license to be able to sell healthcare and also other types of insurance. I think it was life insurance, health insurance, and some other type of insurance. And I'm never going to forget when I was going through the training routine at Atlantis Healthcare at the time. Not sure if I signed an NDA on this or not, but I honestly don't even care anymore. I don't even think they're a company anymore. I remember going through the training procedure, and they had this really kind of brainwashing way of dealing with you in the onboarding process. It was essentially, if you're here, it's because somewhere in life you failed, and that led you here. And since you failed, we need to essentially rebuild you from scratch the way we want you to be, as it's a pure sales machine. And I remember one of the things that they were saying was, when you're dealing with a customer, you need to save their number in your phone. And the reason you need to save the customer's number, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, this is because we need to keep track of our customers. We need to make sure they're happy, maybe make a follow-up call. If they call, we know who they are. And they said, no. You don't understand, she said. If they call you, you need to know to ignore them and delete their voicemails, ignore them entirely. Nothing, no contact. And I go, huh? No, once you sell them and once they've signed and have an insurance policy with us, they don't get to call you. They need to go through the normal system, and I tried going through the normal system once to pretend to be a customer just for the hell of it to see what happened, and you're waiting on hold for over 2 hours to get to very rude people that dislike you. It was a complete and utter nightmare. You needed to take their number down so that you knew to ignore them, and this was widespread throughout the company. They were more than happy and proud to spread this policy. It was absolutely mind-blowing to me in the very, very, very short time I spent working there, realizing that it was like just 3 steps away from Wolf of Wall Street. And it made me sick. And this is something that I don't think people who are not business owners understand when they say, but Louis, don't you have insurance for that? Or wouldn't insurance cover this? Or wouldn't insurance cover that? When you see that business owners skimp on insurance, it's not because they don't want to pay for the service. It's because many business owners have the experience of paying for the service, of being willing to pay for the service, of not lowballing and nickel and diming, signing the dotted line, being more than happy to pay the amount that's there, and not getting that service when they need it. And once that's happened enough times, you figure to yourself, screw it. I'd rather keep the money in my bank account, and God forbid something happens, even though that's a lot less money than I would get from the insurance payout, at least that's money that I can get, which is more than I can say from many insurance companies that will take your money and then pay out nothing because of some ridiculous technicality that makes no sense unless you're a company looking to just screw people. Hartford. And that's it. I would like to share more of these little tidbits because over the past 10 or 11 years, there are so many things that I've dealt with. My personal favorite insurance experience outside of this was when I stopped receiving a bill for a specific kind of insurance that is required if you have a business. So there's like the luxurious crap, and then there's the stuff that you really need to have, like workman's comp. You need to have that as a business. The moment you're in business and employing people, bam, workman's comp. So I remember that the company that I was doing business with was actually so asinine ass backwards. They did not have auto pay. You had to actually physically write them a check and mail it, like boomer style, for a fairly long period of time. And this sucked. Now, at one point, they stopped sending me bills. And this is one of those things where it's not like the internet. It's not like electricity. It's not like gas where when it turns off, oh, wow, that's turned off. It's not like you stop paying the garbage company and the garbage stops getting picked up. It's not like payroll stops working to where you'll notice because your employees will show up to work with pitchforks one day and go, hey, something seems to not be working. It's one of those things that you don't notice. It's not like the air seems different that day. And the bill stopped showing up. In addition to not having a bill anymore, they also did not send out the piece of mail that said that my policy had been canceled. So I didn't figure out until I received a ridiculous fine from the city that I did not have insurance for that time period. Because the city of New York, if you're missing workman's comp for even just a couple of weeks, you're getting a $2, $4, $8, $10, $15,000 fine. It just keeps adding. And one of the really interesting things here was that the only way that I could have been informed of this was by mail. And they claim they sent it, and it didn't show up. So one of the interesting things here is that when it comes to insurance, is that if your mail carrier puts your mail in somebody else's mailbox, you could get a $15,000 to $20,000 fine from the city. Whether or not you get fined 5 figures can entirely depend on the competence of your USPS mail delivery courier.
I'm good. This is the post office manager, right?
Yeah, pickup. Yeah, I'm the supervisor. I did the pickup one day. We miss anything?
Yeah, all of the packages that were picked up on Saturday the 10th are still in pre-shipment and they're missing, and we just want to know what happened to them. We actually were able to identify the packages that are missing, and it turns out that it looks like they were all really, really small, and we had them in a USPS bin. I don't know if you remember the bin, maybe.
What do you mean? There wasn't small. Those are all the big size packages. What do you mean? What did you identify?
So there's 23, 24, there's 25, 26, there's 27 total. And they're the kind of packages that would have gone in an envelope versus a box because they're really, really small.
There's no envelope. Yeah, everything was just a box.
Okay. So there's a bin somewhere with 25 or 26 envelopes. So are you saying you didn't pick up a bin?
I'll text you. I'm kind of really busy. I have to go out to the street. I'll text you later.
Whether or not the mail that I receive is from 168 First Avenue or 186 First Avenue, whether or not I receive a bill for a service that I can only pay by mail, whether or not I receive a notice that says that since that bill that I have never received has not been paid, that the service will be canceled, will be received, and whether or not I get fined $10,000 to $20,000 by the city of New York can be entirely dependent on the competence of the person in that phone call and recording, which to me is just, I can't tell you how many times I got packages for 168 First Avenue. I can't tell you how much stuff I got for Handsome Dan's candy shop next door. I can't tell you how many times I got violations for Atomic Wings from the health department and stuff like that delivered to my store because the mail courier, how do I put this? When they're riding around in an unair-conditioned car in 97 degrees or an unheated car in 18 degrees, doesn't care. And this is something that is, like, to most people, they don't understand this type of stuff. And my CPA has said, yeah, I deal with this on a regular basis. And it's, a lot of these companies have gotten up to speed, and they actually do have things like auto bill pay. But it's a very interesting industry, the insurance industry. Like, from my experiences with the Hartford, my experiences with the company that will not give you a courtesy call, did not have the ability for auto payments, and would immediately cut you off, and the city being able to fine you. And my experience with Atlanta's healthcare, to where I was actually trained by supervisors and management to ensure that I add every customer to my phone, make sure I know that they were a client, so that the moment I sign them up, I never answer my phone again. Just blew my mind to the entire industry of insurance. Absolutely blew my mind ever since 2008, 12 years later, and to this very day. I just look back on it. It just makes me want to throw up. So that's about that. There's a lot of other experiences that I've had over the course of running a small business that are interesting. And I'd like to share more of them because, like, the concept that there are people out there that are more ridiculous about water damage than Apple, or the fact that a mail clerk making a mistake can cost you $20,000. Like, this type of stuff is stuff that I don't think is common knowledge, and I think it would be cool to share more of these stories. So just let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions or things that you think would be interesting, and I'll try to share this stuff more often. Unless BlackBerry, scratches my voice box out, in which case I won't be able to. She really feels guilty. I can tell she feels guilty because she hasn't made eye contact once this entire video. Very. See you in the next one.